Hey guys, welcome to No Paint Garage. In this video I'm going to show you how to replace the wheel bearings on a 2004 Buick Lesabre. I've owned about 3 of these cars. I had a Century, a Regal, and now this Lesabre. So I've done this job a few times. Very common on these late 90s, early 2000s Buicks. Step number 1, get the car in the garage or on a level area in your driveway that you can work on it safely. Next, you're going to find a good spot to jack the car up. Typically I jack them up right there on that part of the frame next to the where the control arm bolts to. Now I'm doing both sides. I'm also doing rotors and pads. I'm going to try Master Pro and Duralast O'Reilly's and AutoZone. The reason I'm doing that is because a lot of these aftermarket bearings don't last very long, but I've heard good things about both of these brands. I would suggest not buying one online from eBay. They don't last very long. Spend a little bit more, get these. They are about $100. So I'm doing a little experiment to see which one lasts longer. Got your 3/4 inch socket. Take this off. Make sure you use a jack stand. Very important. I'm going to put mine right under there. I need to raise the jack a little bit more though. There's a little hole in the frame right there. Perfect spot to put the jack stand. Now you got a good solid spot right there for the jack stand, and the car's not going to go anywhere. Alright, when you got these all in bolted, just pull them out like this. Take the caliper off. You might need to pry it off with a screwdriver. You're just going to kind of tuck the brake caliper up here behind the shock. That way it's not dangling by the brake hose. You could also use some mechanics wire or a clothes hanger and wire up a little hanger for it, but this works right here. Now you can remove the brake pads. The next step is taking off the caliper bracket. You got 2 15mm bolts in the back. Got to break both of those loose and take them off, and then you can take this bracket off. You can take these 2 bolts out now. Here's your caliper bracket. Now the rotor can come off. That'll go in my scrap pile. If yours is in good condition, you can reinstall it, but I'll be putting new ones on. This car shakes really bad when you hit the brake, so one of these rotors up front is warped. Now you're going to blast the axle nut with your favorite penetrating oil. This car is a rust-free car from down here in Arkansas, so it's real easy to work on. If you're working on something from up north, it's going to take a little bit more effort to get this off. Now you got to find a socket or buy one that is a 1 5/16 inches. I think technically this is actually a metric size. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but 1 5/16 inches fits nice and snug, pretty snug on there, and it works. That's what I use for this. And if you have one of these, it'll save you a ton of time. If not, you can break it loose with a big breaker bar. Alright, once the axle nut's off, you can go ahead and take these 3 bolts off back here. They're kind of hard to get to. There's one there, there's one there, and there's one on the other side back there. That's a 13 millimeter. If you look on the front side of the wheel bearing, you can see the bolt sticking through. If you get your penetrating oil and oil those up, and along this edge right here, it should help free them up a little bit. Alright, when all of the 3 of those bolts are taken off, the wheel bearing will slide off. You'll have to break it loose from the spindle here. This one popped right off. Most of the time they don't. You'll have to put a little chisel in between here and here and tap it with a hammer. And then you have to get the actual splines out of the wheel bearing, which, how I do that is I just put this nut back on so I don't mess up the threads, and tap it with a hammer. And you can see it pushes that axle shaft in. If you look in there, you can see the splines. So you just tap that out of there, and then the whole thing should come off. Alright, the wheel bearings broke loose. I forgot to unplug the ABS sensor here. Now the whole thing should come right out of here. Alright, next you're just going to kind of clean all this out. Alright, now that this is all clean, I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the splines right here. That way, next time, it won't be stuck so bad. Alright, putting the bracket back on for the ABS wire. Gotta fish in this wire here, put the new one in, slip it on there. Alright, got the bracket in, got the new pigtail for the ABS fished through, and now I've slipped it onto the splines. That grease really helps to make it go together smoother, just like that. So now it's ready to bolt back up. Alright, now I'm going to add some blue Loctite to the wheel bearing bolts, just so they don't vibrate loose. All 3 of the bolts are tight. Now it's time to put the axle nut on and get started here. Nothing special here. I'm going to run it on with this. It would probably be a good idea to torque that to specs. I don't have those torque specs off the top of my head, but I'm going to go ahead and look those up and get that torque to spec. Alright, so the torque spec for the spindle nut is 148 foot-pounds. Now we can take the ABS pigtail and clip it back into the bracket. The new spindle wheel bearing. New wheel bearing should come with a new clip for this. And then you can hook up your original end, clip it in place. Being a little bit stubborn, I gotta do this with 2 hands, but you guys get the idea. Now, the shiny new rotor can go on. like so. That looks really good. All those shiny new parts. Now it's basically the reverse of how you take it apart. Caliper is going to go on here, caliper bracket I should say. I'm going to dab some blue Loctite on the caliper bolts right here. Alright, got the caliper bracket back on. Now we can install the brake pads back in place. Get those in. Alright, brake pads are on. Now you need to compress the piston in the caliper. I like to use one of these slide clamps. Works really good. I already got it compressed. I typically like to take the master cylinder cap off just so that air can get out. When I'm doing that, I've blown a couple brake lines doing this. So just be careful there. Now we can slip this on and bolt it back together. Just like that, the job's complete and the wheel can go back on. Make sure not to over tighten the lug nuts. These actually snap off pretty easy. Don't know why, but they do. Alright, that one side is all done. If you found this video helpful, really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything, and you'll get notified when I post videos. Sometimes I post videos like this, how-to stuff. Sometimes I just post stuff for fun, like the projects I'm working on. All kinds of stuff. So appreciate all you guys. Remember, quit worrying about the paint. Get the thing fixed up. Get it back on the road. Enjoy it. Don't let it sit in the garage for 25 years. Don't take it apart and never put it back together. Alright, see you guys in the next one.